Okay, so we are good to go, and it is sharp 6 o'clock. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gaurav Yadav, and for the benefit of all of you, I founded IPN 4.5 years ago, and within the IPN, especially I would say during the COVID times, we've been meeting very, very often, and we've been trying to bring to you very, very demonstrated work in the field of school education, which is being carried out throughout the country. And I think that's where we've been privileged that we have members from across the country who are very, very forthcoming in terms of sharing their experience with all of you. And that is precisely the way or the idea which initially I thought of when I envisaged when I wanted to start IP, which was that no one sort of a knowledge repository should lie with one person. It should actually be disseminated all across. So I'm thankful to for today's four of very, very distinguished leaders. In fact, I should be saying five, and even the moderator gets counted into this as well. So four very distinguished ladies with me, and just to make a balance so that this is not like an all-women affair, I have put in one gentleman who will moderate the session for us, which is the principal of Bhawan School in Bhopal, Dr. Rajesh Sharma ji. Firstly, thank you for joining, all of you, in fact. So before I go any further, my quick introduction of Dr. Rajesh Sharma ji is that he's actually an armed forces individual. What I know of him, he was in the Air Force, and from there he transitioned to academia. And whenever I have interacted with him, one thing which really stands out for me, for any individual, I usually attach an adjective to an individual. Either he's boring, or he's sensible, or he's non-sensible for that matter. Just help me decipher individuals. So in that case, I usually find him to be one word for his energy. Infectious energy is what the word comes to me when I see Dr. Rajesh Sharma ji. And apart from obviously his academic excellences, because everyone here has a lot of pedigree to bring to the table. But having said this, thank you for accepting my invitation to moderate this session. Pleasure to have you with us.
Absolutely, my honor, Gaurav.
I now dive into my panelists, which is, as I said, two lovely ladies. So thank you firstly for joining my, in fact, not only just expected, in fact, they volunteered to take up their sort of experience across IPN Forum. So I'll start with Ms. Chitrakala Ramachandran. Ms. Chitrakala Ramachandran is a principal of Chennai Public School in Chennai, and obviously a very, very distinguished leader with 34 years of career, or I would say building lives, I would say that should be the better word of putting her together. And she was, in fact, conferred with the National Award in the 2019. So very, very distinguished leader, and pleasure to have you with us. And thank you. And very, very great to have you at IPN as well, for that matter. Good to have you, Ms. Chitrakala. I go to Punam Singhal ji next. Ms. Punam is again a very, very distinguished school leader. And I would request all of you to do a little maths when I say these number of years. So, and I'll ask you at the end of it, what is the total number of years we have with us today on the panel? And by that, I'll get to know that you're good at maths. Okay, so 35 years from here now, from 34 years to move to 35, which is Punam Singhal ji brings in 35 years of very, very distinguished career behind us. As I said, she is currently the principal of the Paras World School in Gurgaon. Glad to have you with us, Ms. Punam, and obviously we look forward to your deliberation today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Pleasure being here, and a very good evening to all the principals and the teachers here, and a very good evening to Rajesh ji for moderating this.
Thank you. I now go to my third panelist, Ms. Meera Mathur, and by the way, I have not worked out on any chronology as such. It is purely that they are from my left to right on my screen. I see Ms. Chitrakala is the rightmost, and then I'm growing in the backward window. Ms. Meera Mathur, as I think again, these are stalwarts of this sort of a schooling fraternity in India. I would not attribute them to any particular region. I would say these are people who are really contributing to the national growth. So Ms. Meera Mathur is at present the principal of Dpsg International in Ghaziabad. She's I think the principal. Are you the founder principal by any chance, or are you just the principal there? No, you're not.
My school is a decade old,
So I'm not the founding.
So would you mind telling me what is your sit, if I have to sit 34 plus 35 is 69, how much should I add more so that it becomes a little more meatier?
Add 25, please.
25. See, now I'm getting the maths into the picture. But having said this, very, as I said, these are very distinguished careers. So fantastic, Miss Meera Mathur, for in fact, when Miss Meera Mathur, I was trying to rope in her for another session, which we couldn't really work out with her. But then when this opportunity came in, I thought I should not be missing out on this. So we're looking forward to your session, Miss Mathur, and she has had a lot of these very distinguished sort of accolades, I would say, which is from being a top 100 educators in the country. And I think she has got some other awards as well. But then for me, more than anything else, I personally feel, look at the sort of enthusiasm one carries, even after 35 years, or even after 34 years, or even after 25, you are so forthcoming. Trust me, if I will be at this stage, I'll say, I'll be a lazy bug. I wouldn't say, not why the hell I do this. I mean, see, honestly, I really compliment all of you for this, that you truly live your passion, which is teaching or being with the fraternity. So for me, that's the biggest compliment. For me, that's the biggest compliment. You can still really have that passion. So thank you very much.
I don't believe that would be any time laid back. I'm sure, Gaurav, from what we've seen of you, as I'm sorry I couldn't join last time, but I think it's all turned out for the best, because blended learning is something that's so close to my heart. And thank you for having me over. Thank you, Rajesh ji, and all my fellow principals. So nice to be with all of you.
Thank you. And last but not the least is Miss Anubha Srivastava. Miss Anubha Srivastava is at present, she is the principal of Delhi International School Edge in Dwarka, New Delhi. And obviously she's been a very distinguished leader herself. She was in fact principal in her last capacity in Vasundhara, I believe, which is again in NCR. So she's been largely working in NCR. Before that, she was with the Chinmaya group of school in Vasant Vihar in New Delhi, wherein she was the head of the department, I believe, right? She, in fact, which I found out to be a very distinguished part of her career, that she's actually taught PhDs as well, because she was earlier with the NSIT, which is the National Netaji Subhash Chandra Institute of Technology in New Delhi, which is one of the regional engineering colleges as well. So she has been, I think, was you an assistant professor there, or were you a lecturer there?
Lecturer.
You were a lecturer there. Fantastic. So she made a very interesting observation. She said, I have taught from pre-primary to PhD. I said, which was the more challenging one? She said, the primary one. Okay, so let's just see. We'll go and discuss from her experience on that as well. Now, I will take a quick back seat, and before I go there, thank you every one of you, these 267 leaders who have joined us. Most welcome on behalf of the entire IPN family. Great to have you with us. Over to you, Sharma ji. Take it over. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. We are all so much proud of being in IPN, and it has been an intellectual exchange platform for everyone. And please let us be honest about it, that this has been a flipping experience for everybody. Let us be, we are going to talk about flipped classroom. It has really flipped. The situation has been flipped all over the world, and IPN has taken over and has been able to add to the knowledge of every member of the fraternity. And I'm really honored to be moderating the session with such a great educationist, and of course the leadership of Gaurav. So we start with the panel immediately.
Sorry. Oh, as you wish. Yeah, as you wish.
Yeah. So as we start from the experience-wise, I would request Miss Anubha only to start the youngest experienced one from nursery to PhD. So how the flipping has gone? How would you explain? Try to do it.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh. Thank you, Gaurav ji, for having me here and giving me an opportunity to share my experiences with everyone. Rajesh ji, you made a beautiful statement. We have been flipping for quite some time. And I think this is a new jargon that has come up. But flipping is something that every generation has been doing. when suddenly we were forced to take up everything over the technological platform, it was my younger son who was teaching me how to get familiarized. So I was the learner and he was the teacher. So quickly summing it up, when we say flip classrooms or blended learning, flipping basically is the teacher becoming the taking the seat on the receiving end and the student doing the presentation, if I put it in a very simplistic terms. And that is something which, as Gauravji said, the term came into existence somewhere in the year 2000, but has been happening since a long time. As a teacher, I remember when I was not even aware of the term, so many times we thought of a topic, we gave a brief introduction to the students, and we would ask the students to do the presentation. And I found it to be extremely instrumental in creating individualized learning rather than delegating to the children what I wanted them to learn, which I find is a very important aspect of school education. So when I migrated from my role as a teacher in a higher education institute to the school education, and from engineering college, I directly took up classes 11th and 12th. But before coming to engineering college, there was a very short period when I had taught in nursery KG. And in my entire career till date, I find it the most challenging experience. It was very difficult to handle their attention span, to get them all glued onto what you wanted them to learn. And in fact, you just cannot do it. You have to keep yourself diversified into what are the different things that a child wants. Yeah. So when I took over from the teaching part to the admin part, pedagogy was one area which was very core to my heart. And then how to implement into the classroom and bring in innovations or greater learning or greater student involvement. This is something where I picked up the concept of blended learning and I tried to bring it down to the lower class level. It is easier to do it in senior classes. It is very difficult to do it in nursery KG is what I had picked from my previous experiences. So allow me to share my screen so that it becomes easier. Is my screen visible?
Yeah. Yeah, you are. It's visible now.
All right, thank you. Go ahead. So although the screen says a case study, I'll be sharing with you a couple of cases that I recall as a case study that I have been doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God, now this is where.
No problem, your flipping is needed.
All right, I got it, thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. So I've taken a couple of case studies here and I have just tried to sum up the points. When we are trying to flip classroom, the first idea is that we just cannot go directly into the core that we want to study. Ideally, I sit with my teachers, I set up a target or a topic which we want to flip. And then we decide how much of foundation we are going to give to the class, what is the base that we are going to provide to the class, and how are we going to break it up into smaller areas that we will be sharing with the children so that the children can do the presentation. This is just the very fundamentals which I don't want to take long on it, and I think everyone here must be doing it. And then we have to bring in the elements of curiosity. And while bringing in the elements of curiosity, we have to see what is the age of the children who are there, what kind of awards or what kind of incentives can be offered to those children. And while I had been doing it for quite some time as a teacher, I have been practicing it in my previous school also. I've just taken over Delhi International School as a founder principal. Entire curriculum in the school. And we were planning on blended teaching, we were planning on activities, and while we were still planning, lockdown happened, which caught us unprepared, unaware, because my team of teachers was also very new. And in fact, this gave me a perfect ground to start working right from scratch. Go slow, work one chapter at a time or one topic at a time, and focus on one class at a time. I have taken here two examples. The first example that comes on your screen is the holiday homework that I have planned for my kindergarten. Now I've taken this image. I don't recall whether it is nursery or KG, but if you can see, I broke up their days into each day, what activity the children will be doing. Let us say day 1 was start your day with yoga. And then there are page 3, 5 and 7 from book 1, which is part of their curriculum. So when we broke up this entire schedule of their 1 month of summer vacation, we also identified that when we are going to ask children, who are going to be the children who are going to share with us what kind of experiences that they had. So along with this schedule that we gave them, we also gave them certain set of guiding questions to the parents, that when the children come back to school, I do not want to see the pen and paper work done by the children. Okay, you can click the images can be shared on the school social site so that the children are excited to see themselves on the school's pages. But what I want is that when the children come back, they should be sharing their experiences with the other children. And rather, they should be in a position to teach the teacher the poses of yoga, or how to button or unbutton a shirt, how to fold it. And whether they are doing it in groups or they are doing it individually, it is the other set of children who are grading them or clapping for each other. And then one child teaching, the other children learning. How many of them learned is the kind of grade that the children are getting. Not the grade exactly, is the kind of, let us say, the balloons or the stars or the smiley faces that the children are getting. I took it up as an experiment, a very blind experiment. And I'm very happy to share with all of you that this turned out to be a roaring success. I have so many children coming up, teaching other children, holding hands of each other wherever they felt. There was one child who was not able to balance or walk on the pattern given. And I have 5 children standing up to tutor him how to do it better. Where is the child faltering? So this is at the pre-primary level, where I believe, initially I believed that blended learning is going to be difficult, but I thought this is the most effective thing that can happen in the class. Moving on to the next example. Okay, this again I have taken a screenshot from the project that was assigned. You can also read the topic, the major topic of the project, sustainable development. The roll number that says it was a group assignment. There's a brief paragraph about the sustainable development. Okay, that it meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generation. And this is for my middle school. Despite this being for middle school, I kept the language very simple, which could be understood by every student. And then there were certain set of guiding questions. The children were pre-briefed on various aspects of sustainable development. There was one class in which the general guidelines were provided by the subject teacher. Along with this project, there were links to various books, various publications, various newspaper reports around the topics given. So while the children were at home, they had the flexibility to explore that. And then there were also a whole lot of questions that were given to the children, which they were supposed to ask from their parents, from their grandparents, from their friends in Delhi, outside Delhi, and outside India. So this kind of experiences, the target here was that the children collect their research matter from the resources available, and they also collect the feedback from their interactions, which I believe is very important. I hope my screen is visible and you can read the questions.
Yes, yes, it is. It is.
So level of pollution due to vehicular congestions, sustainable means of transport, statistical tools indicating the rise of pollution related or transport in Delhi, pollution related to transport. I'm sorry, I'll not be able to read directly from the screen because my screen is showing the images of the participants. So, and I am still at the receiving end of flipped learning as far as IT is considered. And then we asked the children to prepare a magazine. So every class was given a different kind of assignment. They had the flexibility. Had I taken this topic in the classroom with the book, I would have ended up covering whatever is given in the book itself. When I had taken it by giving them questions, and my criteria was to give them questions that are not there on the internet, that are directly not available to be copied from the internet. So you can see that we have also blended in Hindi here, sustainable development as in सतत विकास किस तरह हमारी सभ्यता को हमारे जीवन को प्रभावित करता है. We had a couple of more languages being taught in school. So I have given the flexibility of to the children to use Sanskrit, to use French, to use German, to create posters, to create awareness indicators, and then compile it in the form of a magazine. And how can you give it a multicultural and multinational approach? So when I was doing it and when we were preparing all these things, it was during this time, the NEP, in fact, after I have done this project, the NEP was rolled out. And I was so glad to find so many changes in the NEP, which kind of seemed to be sinking in with what I had in my mind. So I'm sure things ahead are going to be much more smoother as far as blended learning or flipped learning is considered. But this is just one small drop of various aspects of learning that I can think of. Okay, so I'll not go into the details of the question, but I would like to tell you the outcomes that happened in my middle section with the blended learning. I had lesser distractions in the class because the children were presenting, and they had nicer anecdotes because at times they were incorporating each other's experiences. So if I am presenting and I'm sharing something about Meera ma'am obviously will be more interested to listen to what I have to say about it. And that did the trick. And their imaginations, the children are more imaginative than we are. So they came up with beautiful presentations. I had one child who used one of the program which is able to do the doodling, some software or some internet-based program. So while he was explaining, there was a cartoon character etching the graphs and scribbling out on screen whatever he was saying. So it was synced with the audio.
Anubha, ma'am, you had to wind up.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. I'm sorry. Okay. So these were the outcomes that I would want to share. As a teacher, we can anticipate newer learnings with flipped learning. We'll be redefining the boundaries. It incorporates NEP. Okay. And thank you, everyone. That was the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. That was really great, Anubha, ma'am. Now you can stop your sharing, ma'am. I invite now Miss Meera Mathur, ma'am. So with your views on flipped learning, please, ma'am. And as I reminded her, I will remind you as well.
Yes, surely. Yes. Thank you so much. You know, life makes us pause very often. And I can tell you that I've been in Bhopal when the gas tragedy took place. Oh. It brought a pause into our lives, but we picked ourselves up and moved on. I've been in Gandhinagar, which is very close to the Bhuj epicenter when the Bhuj earthquake took place. Again, schools, things stopped functioning for a while. But I don't think anything would have prepared us for COVID. Because COVID is something that if we say it allowed us to pause, we can't really get away with it because it's now more than 6 months. Just tell me whether you're able to see my screen.
It is there, ma'am. The screen is visible.
Is it large enough?
No, ma'am, you have to put it the slideshow.
Yeah, I'll do that. So, having begun this way, actually, there's no other way, but we've got to get on with life as it is because we've got to pick ourselves up and move on. So thankfully for us or me at my school, we'd already been doing it for the last 2-3 years. And we were pretty used to some kind of student-centric learning. So it wasn't very difficult. And I'm glad that I can be with you today and share some of our best practices. So if you see the traditional method, which used to be the lecture chalk and talk method, wherein the child carried some homework assignments in. But flipped classrooms put the onus on the child. It becomes from teacher-centric, it moves on to student-centric learning. And the input from the facilitator is given to the child much before the child comes to class. So with this input in, like Anubha ji just mentioned that if I talk about Meera ma'am, she'll take interest in what she's doing. So experiential learning is far more important, and giving the child the benefit of knowing the path and knowing the goal is so much better. So when they come back to class with whatever print or digital resources we've provided them, the classroom activities are so much more interesting, so much more engaging, and the student is leading his own learning. So what exactly is flipped classroom? If you can see the picture on the right, here are the children who are researching. And it's all about research and collaboration. And if on the left you see, they take that research forward, prepare a presentation, and once having done this, do you think that someone would ever forget what they've done? Because this is actual learning by doing. Therefore, flipped classrooms is nothing but an instructional methodology. And here the children engage in their own referencing, in their own reading. And this is what we talk about as HOTS, or the higher order thinking skills. So they learn partly individually, partly through online learning, partly through supervised classrooms. This was in the face-to-face mode, and we'd been doing it. So it was not difficult for us to move to the virtual mode, because right now it's only the virtual mode. So now they're presenting through their screens, their laptops, and their devices. A flipped classroom is actually the best of a real classroom and a virtual classroom, the best of both worlds. So the students get an opportunity to research and to refer to different resources. So they have a fair understanding, and there's a qualifying knowledge before they come into the classroom. Now, blended learning has got various ways of doing it. There is the face-to-face training. Sadly, it's not there right now. The virtual classroom. There can be webinars, like this is a webinar, attending a TED Talk or any such seminar, which you hear the speaker or you see what the speaker is giving you, the links to it, simulations. I'll talk about all these a little later. Assessments and one-to-one coaching, the individualized, customized way. So it's the most effective methodology in order to implement a flipped model. A Forbes study says that blending is here to stay. So it's no longer a side dish. It is now the new normal. And therefore, only institutions with solid educational practice can maintain this learning without any disruption, without any stop. And it's the educational benchmark today. So now we need to build our academic plans around this new requirement, relook at teacher plans, relook at teacher training. And now onwards, it won't be focused on rote learning or on teacher-centric classes, but shifted to inquiry-based student-led research. And collaboration and research are the two bywords now in blended learning. So what have I done so far, which can be of help to everyone else? So we began, first of all, with preparing ourselves and provided extensive training to teachers, not only in conducting the classes, but how to get their resources, how to keep the children engaged, and how to assess them as well. Because learning cannot be complete without some form of assessment, whether it is off learning, whether it is for learning, or whether it is as learning. Along with that, we held seminars and onboarded parents as well as students, and we told them how it would be and how we would be doing it. So initially there were a few puzzles, but those teething problems and all were overcome. And now we've shifted totally to virtual classrooms. So now we explore and research through PPTs, whatever kind of visual aids could be there. Our online PTMs are held. We hold proper assessments. The first time we did it through MS Forms, and I'll talk more about it. And we continue to have formative assessments because it's very important to gauge whether the children have learned or not. So right now, when I see the screen, I can see only Rajesh ji's face, and I can see him nodding away. It helps me to know that, well, I can gauge whether I'm reaching out to him. But it's really difficult when you have a large class. So whether you conduct quizzes or you have worksheets or you use collaborative web tools, that is the way we try to get the children to be engaged. And we provide them pre-reading. And then when they have the pre-reading, we assess the qualifying knowledge through a quick quiz or a few questions, sample questions, or it might be peer learning and they may pose the questions. We always emphasize on the essential questions so that they know where is that unit leading to and where is the inquiry going to. Therefore, the children are completely engaged. We have created our own resources, our own training manuals, and used a range of resources and activities so that this learning is individualized, it is personalized, and it is student-centric. We've also tried to get in reflection, because reflective learning and reflection on what you've done so far, or having a kind of a bridge session and trying to understand where you've come up to, if there are any gaps in learning, to plug them, and then to create a personalized learning plan. So the tools that we've adopted, I have a few screenshots for you to see that if you have an Edmodo quiz, it's right in your face and the children get instant results. It's a very, very popular way of reaching out to the children. Or there could be a wakelet wherein you can ask the children, it's like a post-in on your bulletin board. Like when the children leave classes in the face-to-face mode, you may ask them to put a little postscript and say if there are any gray areas or what they loved about the lesson. So you could quickly do what I know, what I want to learn, where I've still got more to learn, which were my gray areas. So Wakelet does that. Apart from that, I think almost everyone would know about Diksha and ePathshala and various collaborative tools that Microsoft has introduced. I'd also like to show you another collaborative tool, and that is Answer Garden, which is very short. You can just ask them to write a 1 word or a 2 word about the lesson that happened. And this is one screenshot of something that the children had done. And at the end of the lesson, this is the way they posted in their comments. Or you can see the reflections on Padlet and they can give feedback to the teacher. So the learner and the facilitator both are equally involved. We've also used OLabs for simulations because the natural feel of the science lab, etc., is not there. In fact, we were using it a little bit before, but now that we've turned to it, we feel that this might be a far better way of conducting experiments. So the benefits to the students that we found in flipped learning is that they can set their own time and pace. Because when we work through MS Teams, all the lessons are recorded. If the child was unwell and has not attended a particular class, they can always go back to the recording. If the child felt that he could understand while the facilitator was transacting the lesson, but when it came to the child to internalize it, and he finds that, no, I haven't understood, he can revisit that lesson and go over it again. So it's anytime, anywhere learning. It controls their pace over their learning. Difficult concepts can be reviewed. And because it's more engaging, the content is also more interesting. The other fact is that if you wish to take the children out to a zoo or a museum and you can't do it now, you can take them virtually. So it's working out to be a really win-win situation for the students. I'd like to show you some screenshots of, that little child is about 4 years old from prep class. All of them are learning. You can see the bio classes going on, the little ones practicing what happy looks like, what sad looks like. And these are Kahoot quizzes where again, the answers are instantaneous and the child can see his own scores as well as someone else's. So it's a very popular tool with all the children. I'm glad to share with you that we were recognized for our efforts and made it to certain news channels too. And then look at this e-mun that we conducted. It was all done virtually. Children researched at home on various countries and country profiles, and they conducted this all on their own. It was a fantastic experience. In fact, I felt that their suggestions and their solutions are so path-breaking, I think maybe we need to put them into Parliament for one day. And the way forward is we've got to have a base approach on the demography, because what works for my school may not work in another.
Meera ma'am, 2 minutes more.
Sure. The curriculum and the resources that are available, planning, research, training, and continued scaffolding to teachers. So this way you find that it's student-led and inquiry-based. Students emerge more independent, more reflective, more responsible. They are eager to research. And one thing is there, that one size does not fit all. So you've got to find your own pace and your own way of transacting it. I hope my 2 minutes, I didn't...
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. That was so nice. As a matter of fact, you make my work very, very easy, Anubha ma'am and yourself, when we finish on time. So now I invite our next intellectual personality, and Punam ma'am, to please share your ideas about flipped classroom, ma'am, please.
So, good evening, everybody. Very, very interesting perspectives shared by my previous panelists, and good learning. It's always great to learn. Like they said, that a flipped classroom is where you've actually flipped the role of a teacher. The teacher does not become the center. It is the student who becomes the center. And what I am going to share with you is probably only stories, because I'm 35 years into education. And I think there are a number of ways in which we've handled certain topics and stuff like that. So when Gaurav asked me, how do you want to take it forward? I thought that the only way that I can take it forward is to share my 35 years of experience, out of which 25 years was actually active teaching. And the last 10 years have been more on administration and utilizing those experiences of training the teachers. So I will start with a little, with a little story that goes back to probably 1999 or 2000. I don't really remember the year, but at that point in time, I was teaching in DPS, and I was teaching from grade 6 to 10, and we had to complete the syllabus. And at that point in time, we had to complete 3 southern continents. We had Australia, we had South America, we had Africa, and we also had Antarctica. Now, syllabus not being completed was a crime. I mean, it couldn't be done. So what I did was that I had to invent a thought. I said, let me try and change the mode of, instead of me taking it forward, I'll put the children into that boat, and I created a group. So I made 4 groups. I gave one person to talk about, their group to talk about who was the first person who reached Antarctica. The next group I said, okay, now you do about the physical features of Antarctica. The third group I said, find out about the animal kingdom, or what is the life there. And the fourth I said, do the mineral resources. So I gave them a week's time, and I said, go ahead and explore. And mind you, those were not days of internet. They were not days where children could easily get any kind of material. So they went off and they did whatever they had to do. And when they came back, so I requested for a double period because I gave them a 10-minute slot to every group. And what was so fascinating was that they actually did a role play. They enacted the whole thing. So they enacted, that you had Rod and Whitson going, and then Scott, how they were able to kind of change gears and be ahead of Scott because Scott was before. And then they found out about the physical features. They found out that there are glaciers, and they found out there are krills, and how krill is an important resource, and that, the mineral resources that are found are embedded into the layers and layers of glaciers. So even though it's very, very rich in coal, that coal cannot be utilized. Now, I said, wow, this is absolutely fantastic. I mean, the things that are not there in the book also is all presented here in the classroom. Now, how do I assess that this learning has really, really gone deep down? Monday test is the norm in a DPS school. So when I gave them a Monday test, I found that the children who were not even doing too well in their routine exams or the routine tests were able to score brilliantly well. That's when I got the confidence. I said, okay, so students have taken ownership on their learning. Students are helping each other. There is no sense of competition. They are on their own path of learning, and it works. That's when I decided that let me try this experiment with the grade 9, because grade 9 also has got too many things that are to be merged and to be understood. NCERT curriculum used to be pretty exhaustive at that point in time. So I said, okay, let me try doing this with climate and vegetation. Let me ask them to superimpose that on the map and see how climate, vegetation, as well as the population of the various countries across the world is in sync. So that was also done, and beautifully done. And in 2007, when I joined Educom, I understood the terms blended learning on flipped classes. And I said, hey, hello, this is what I have been doing all this time. I really didn't know that this is a kind of a tool that can be utilized in promoting learning in the classroom. So, doing the jigsaw, where you gave every child a little bit to research on, and then when they came back to the classroom, they put it all together. And when they put it all together, every child got an opportunity to make a presentation. And when they make that presentation, automatically their confidence level is higher, their communication skills are better, and they feel a little more empowered. So all these factors actually got us to think that, this is a great way of doing it. You had to, what I had to do was that I had to curate the resources. What is it that I want from my children? I had classroom management was the last thing that was on my mind, because the children were so engaged. There was no question of, me taking a stick and saying, hey, you keep quiet, or don't do this, or don't do that. They were also engaged. And even if there was noise, it was productive noise. It was not cacophony. Students worked on their problems. There was a lot of peer learning. So children who were not getting it, the peers helped them out. And the entire process of scaffolding happened. And it's only later that I learned that Vygotsky talked about scaffolding and talked about zone of proximal development. All these terms only came much, much later. Now, how has all this experience of mine helped me as a head of school? Getting the teachers to understand all of it needs them to understand the concrete. They need to understand in real, how is it working? If I ask them to read up, say, look up flipped classes, or talk about blended learning, or, talk about various other aspects of it, it's very, very, it's technical, it's very bookish. And there are times when the teachers themselves are not on that learning curve, on that learning path. So when I tell them that, look, this is how you can do it, giving them real life examples, it makes life so simple. And I've seen it being utilized so effectively that, when we talk of various types of flipped learning, when we talk about virtual flipped, or we talk about debate-oriented flipped, or we talk about group flipped learning, it's all something that actually can happen. So when we had to do our elections in school for the head boy and head girl, we actually used the debate flipped learning formula, where they were given all the material by the teacher, saying this is how it is, and then now you present your case, talk to your entire group, say that this is your logo, this is what you're going to do for the school, and see if you get elected for the head boy or the head girl. And it was very interesting because the children were cheering for them, the children were feeling happy about it, and when happiness is the quotient for learning, it always makes learning very, very effective. So these were the various strategies that we've used, and we are continuing. And with the virtual learning, Ms. Meera just talked about it, how they're utilizing flipped learning. So we had a tech guru in our school just last month, where the children of grade 9 actually explored various tools that can be used in technology, and how you can make your own films, you can make your own videos, and the teachers were just silent participants trying to see how well are these children actually deliberating and delivering. So having said that, I think my stories can be absolutely endless, and I can go on and on and on, and I know that there is a time constraint, and therefore I would like to end here say that I think doing flipped classes and doing blended learning is the most effective way in which a class can be done. We as teachers always have this huge, something on our head कि syllabus खत्म नहीं होने वाला है, इतना सारा बचा हुआ है, इसको कैसे करें? How do we do it? Let me tell you that flipped class is the ideal way of completing. You give them the strand, you give them the instructions, leave them to do it, but monitor. Give them the rubric. Give them what is it that will give them the success criteria. Like, for example, I just shared that the Monday test was a good source of reinforcement for me that what I've done is fine. Similarly, I think all teachers should have a success criteria, a rubric shared with the children, so that they know where they are going, what is the path that they need to take, so that at the end of it, they shouldn't be bhatke hue, they should be focused, they should know where they are going. And I think it's a great way of enjoying learning. So instead of making learning very, very rudimentary and very boring, it can be a lot of fun.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. That was great, Punam ma'am. And I must appreciate the actual thing which has happened. Maybe technically we are all talking that flipped classroom has started from just 2010 or 2000 onwards, which Mr. Gaurav was sharing. But I'm sure you have started quite earlier than that.
I didn't know that it was called flipped classes at that point in time, right? I mean, one just dabbled with it and experimented with it, and it's great to know that there is a structure to whatever one was doing.
Fantastic, man. That was really great, and I'm sure the whole lot of 300 intellectuals who are joining and who are attending the class they must have learned, and this is how we can move ahead. Now, I would like to invite our next speaker, Chitrakala Ramachandran ma'am. So please, ma'am, your views on flipped classroom and blended. Please come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I'm actually flabbergasted by hearing to Punam ma'am. She spoke my heart out, I can say. I'll just share my screen so that, Yes, I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, ma'am, it is visible.
Yes.
Surely you can put it on the full screen, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So, flipped classroom again, I'm not going to speak about what is flipped classroom. I'm just going to speak about my school. I'm going to speak as a whole case study. That's what my school is, a case study for today's presentation. So, well, what I did is, when way back I was introduced, even though I just heard Mr. Gaurav telling it was way back in 2000, it was actually coined as a name. But as Mrs. Punam said, I think in India we've been using it whenever there was a trouble, we innovated to do something new. That itself was flipped classroom. And I was introduced into this formally in 2013 when I was in Abu Dhabi for the first time. It was really something new for me, and as a regular person from India who doesn't accept changes, even I was not ready. But when I started using it, I understood it was so helpful. So I brought what I learned there to India, and then I started using it in my school since 2017. Well, when I started this year, I never use the terminology flipped classroom, blended learning, and so on. We just called it a Starbucks class, because the word Starbucks possibly will attract the children, the parents, and the teachers, because they know what is a Starbucks. We are going to sit and speak to each other, rather than giving them a terminology which is a little tough to understand, or giving them a surprise. So I use that, and we ensure that it's experiential learning based on self-directed learning all through that. So, well, what I always believe is, unless you don't push them into the water, they don't learn swimming. So literally, I had to push the whole crowd, all the stakeholders, from my parents to my teachers, into this. I had a lot of controversies here. They said, what? The teachers don't teach, and they'll give everything for us to do it at home. Then we had to have some orientations to the parents. It's not the teachers not doing anything. We are going to do it in a different way, and we had to orient them. So from the traditional pattern, now my school has different seating plans where we sit and do the classes in different ways based on the topic, what is actually handled. And my teachers have moved, I don't say the 100%, but they've moved from, I can say around 40 to 50% from the traditional to this particular way of teaching and learning. That is, we understood the teacher doesn't just impart instructions and children assimilate and then they go and then they do the homework, but we have now started making them prepare and come to school. Well, what they are doing is, they actually had this kind of a feel in the beginning saying that homework at school and schoolwork at home, it will not work out. Then we said, no, it is experiential learning, and it is going to give more time for your child to understand what actually he's learned or what he actually has to prepare himself. So what I also felt is, Flip has 4 important pillars. That is, it gives a flexible environment for the child. And thanks to Corona, it forced all the teachers to get into flipped classroom now, because there's no other way. You'll have to use this to impart your education for the students. And so they had to do this. And this flexible environment has given opportunity for children who are even abroad, that they can learn at their own time zone whenever they are wanting to learn, because the videos are available. Next, the learning culture has actually changed in the school as well. When we were there, we could see the children started becoming more responsible for their learning. The culture of learning was entirely different after we started introducing the small things into that. And next is, the intention was not just to give the content what is there, but make them realize this is important for their life. It's a learning for life. It's not just learning, memorizing, and preparing for the exams, but it is something that they have to learn for life. Well, for this, the teachers have to be more professionally equipped. The teachers have been repeatedly trained on various areas so that they are ready to do this. Here now we understand that a whole lot of information is available on Google. At times, children come already prepared to the class. They know what is happening outside. So it was a challenge on the shoulders of the teachers that they have to be still better prepared than the child to still have a control over him, especially the gifted and talented. We had to think of all the categories of learning. So we gave the videos to them. We gave them the curriculum links. We gave them different links where they can see, where they made their own groups. They had their own preparations, like they had their own meetings away from school. They got into new ideas, which was really beautiful when they presented it into the school later. So what we also realized is, initially when, if you see a school's timetable is structured, a teacher A teaches chemistry in one class and teacher B teaches chemistry in another section of the same class. What I did here is, I said, based on your interest in the particular subject, if you're good at organic chemistry, you'll teach organic chemistry. If you're good at physical chemistry, you'll do that. So flipping the teachers was also happening inside the school. So it gave a kind of an interest to the children that they saw a new face all the time. And it was really effective, and they became more interested to learn, and they got introduced to different teachers. They used to go to different areas to understand the new things, what was happening. Then the students' achievement we saw could increase really, really well. The parents also understood how important it is. I've just shared a small statistics. If you see, the study shows there is a lot of increase in the schools now understanding what is the importance of flipped classroom when you compare to the earlier days to today. So, well, this is a sample. What we did in my school is, we started this particular experiment in the middle school first, so we don't disturb the other classes. For grade 6, we just gave them small hints about the Indian democratic government, and we gave them a small video. We showed them YouTube videos, and then later on we told them, what you understand, you put it on a mind map and get it. These are some samples of the work that my students prepared and brought it, and this is what they presented it when they were explaining it to the group. This was done by a group of students together. They had to collect information and one child had to present it. And this is another thing where they had to present about woman, the importance of a girl child. So the child created it as a storyboard and she presented it. And when she was presenting it, she presented it with such pride. Even today, we just remember the emotions that the child actually carried while presenting it. Then for pre-primary, we slowly started, we thought, let's also include this into the pre-primary. What we did is we created videos, video lessons through these Power Tools and Explain Everything app. And then we shared the QR code with the parents, and the parents helped the students to scan the QR code to see the video. Believe it, after this lockdown, my children have moved to their hometowns, and some have gone even abroad because I have children from different countries as well. So children can access it at their own time zone. Whenever they are free, they are accessing it, they are going through it, and we had given them some worksheets which they had to do. What was really amazing is, through these, the differentiated approach was really amazingly giving me results, especially with the emerging students. The syllables, the phonemes, the basic concepts of mathematics, they could do it amazingly well. I have just shared a sample of the worksheet that we shared with them. You can see we have given a link also there. They have to just click on the link, see the video, answer all of this, and I'm going to share another. This is what they presented us. And then we did corrections with the, again, software corrections with some techniques, and we had to present it back to them. They were so happy. We got many appreciations from the parents. And I have to share something here. I have teachers who've been teaching, there are teachers who've been teaching for 30 years, 35 years. They have jumped into technology to learn and present it to me. Hats off to such teachers who have done it. So through these, what we also understood is, this is the observations that we got through these flipped classroom classes. They can access, teaching is not happening only at the particular time. It can happen anytime, 24/7, irrespective of the time zone. The child is accountable and has control over his own learning. Then the continuous access to the learning material does not give him the feel, because in class, at times, children who don't understand, they feel shy to ask the teacher to repeat. So this gives him the opportunity to repeat as many times as possible for him to understand. Then he learns it as its own pace. He can learn. His self-confidence is becoming more. He is self-directed to learn. And it's given a lot of collaboration, because after seeing this, the children discuss. I saw this video. Did you see that? I have learned this. What have you done? And I can see amazing collaboration among the teachers. Again, flipping the teachers, what we did is we created videos not very long, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 8 minutes at the max, and we have asked the teachers to share. Looking at this, children started making videos and sending back to us. That was amazingly good. And based on the understanding, the children made their own videos. Definitely, I should appreciate the parents who took the interest to give the children that kind of happiness in preparing it and sending back to us. And the children presented role plays, symposiums, seminars after all of that. And this is a sample. I should tell something about this particular thing. Initially, the teacher gave a small introduction, and then the children presented it really well. And this particular class, it was a social science class where we had a direct class interaction with our children with a school called a Sunrise English Medium School from Abu Dhabi. It was going on for 1 hour. The children from here were interacting with those children and those teachers. And this was one of a very good benchmark that we had set. Initially, the teacher started, but it was done by the children after that. Then, this is one of the sample during the pandemic, what my children did. The teacher just, we called it as a fishbowl activity. We just put a lot of information. We said, anyone, you can choose whatever you want. Children chose it. They chose their own groups. They worked in groups. And then they brought in a presentation as a PowerPoint or as a seminar. And then they had observers from their own peers. And they had to, one presents it, the other one tells about what they have seen in that. And they continue from there. It was kind of a chain reaction. And that gave very good, feedback. And this had a reflection activity, which yes.
Sorry for interruption. 2 more minutes.
Yes, I'm finishing it. I'm at the end now.
Thank you.
If you see, the teaching through this has moved. We are not sticking on to the base of the Bloom's taxonomy. We have gone to the higher level. And this boy, he's an Asia Book of Records holder. Recently, he got it. He presented a humongous information for the higher classes of 12. He's in grade 4, who presented a project. It was really interesting. Wow. And these kind of activities, my children got into TED-Ed. They have their own club in school, and they are the ones who are responsible for the club, and they are presenting it today. And believe it, every child has performed really well. They ask us, when are we going to come into school? These are some of the things that we are using in our classes to, prepare it better. We use all of these. Especially, I should show you a video, which my teachers have prepared, This is using augmented reality. For grade 1, how a teacher did the class. She made this video and sent it to them. So, thank you so much. I hope I could cover everything within the 15 minutes given. I could speak for another hour about what we did. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I must appreciate all our 4 speakers for being such a punctual people, because
thank you.
Then it makes the things easier for everyone.
Thank you.
I'm sure all of the observers, those who are there in the session, they may be having so many questions to particular people. And what I've been seeing, what I understand, a very simple way of flipped classroom. Normal, traditionally, what happens, content delivery is done in the school and problem solving is done as homework. In flipped classroom, what is done? The content delivery is done at home, or it is a homework, and the problem solving is done in the classroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In the classroom. So that is how I understand, very simple way, flipped classroom, we can do it. Now, if Gaurav, you can take over the questions, especially, I'm sure what Anubha ma'am shared, that she has given the case study and the way she used it in the class. Okay, right from the primary classes, even of course she shared the holiday homework as well, because that is where the content delivery is done at home. And then of course problem solving can be done in the school. Blended learning, very nicely spoken by Meera ma'am. And of course, the story and the experience, the real life story by Punam was fantastic. And Chitrakala ma'am, this was really absolutely how can the people use it. And I'm sure everyone, whosoever is present in the webinar, must have got benefit out of it. So now the session is open for Q&A. Maybe Gaurav?
We have, firstly, before we go there, thank you to all my 4 speakers. It would be unfair on my part to pick up one of them and say you were brilliant over the other. All of you were fabulous, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gaurav, for this opportunity. I forgot to mention this. Thank you.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, please. So we will straight dive into the Q&A because that's where we want to now devote much of our time. Rajni Gupta, please ask your question.
Yeah, hello everyone. First of all, I would acknowledge and congratulate all the distinguished speakers for giving us a deeper insight into this topic, flipped classroom. And my question is, when I was seeing the whole conversation, when I was hearing the whole conversation and I was seeing the screen, the picture that was coming to my mind was of those students who are the, top layer of the classroom, that 30% of the classroom. So I have my question. Any of the panelists can answer the question. The question is that what is to be done for how to ensure the involvement of each and every student of the class and how to value the opinion of each and every student of the class. That is my question.
I can take this question if you want.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Chitrakala ji.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Mrs. Rajni. Good question. The thing is, you have a heterogeneous group in every class. No class has all good, very good children or something like that. So you have to have activities planned in such a way it caters to all learning level. You have emerging, you have expected, you have exceeding. How do the teacher plan the activities? It cannot be a one single plan for all of them. As Madam said, it depends on the demography of the place. Similarly, the classroom again is a small society where you have different learning challenges. So the teacher, within a week or 10 days, she'll understand how good, you can have a baseline test to understand who stands where. Based on that understanding, the teachers' information, what they give should be catering to all the levels of learning. That's very important. The activities, what you plan, should be planned in such a way it reaches every child. The activity can be differentiated, same concept with different pattern of approaches can be done. That's what I. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I understand.
And if I can add, ma'am, if I can add, please understand every child can do something. You have to find out the geography and the psychology of the children. I'm sure no child in the class is that he cannot do anything. Something everybody can do. That is where our work is there to find out and give it. And
that's what my concern was, Rajesh, that every child's opinion should be valued in the classroom. And sometimes I've practically seen this thing that some children, they lag behind, and those who are good speakers, those who are good presenters, they come forward and they take the stage. Yes, please.
Can I give an example? I'd like to give an example. The example that you can choose, for example, if you're doing an activity like Chitrakala just said, that make sure that your group activity that is happening is not homogeneous, it is heterogeneous. In the sense that everybody is given a different role and responsibility to play. There would be some who would be very good at communication, but there would be some who are very good at documentation. There could be some who are very good at drawing. So if that opportunity can be given to those children, that, maybe one can draw, one can speak, one can, actually take the statistics and other things and put it all together. If you have a group like that today, every child gets engaged, every child gets involved. And the role of a teacher is to prod the one who is not doing anything. You have to get down to see is this task a little too difficult for the child that the child is feeling left out? So maybe give something which is, what we talk as differentiated learning, and make sure that, the child gets into the mainstream by taking a cue from there. It happens that, some children may just lose track. So what you do as a teacher is to ensure that, you give those cues, you give small responses to the child so that the child can take it forward.
I'd like to add my bit too, Rajni ji. So there are two ways you could do it. One is that don't depend totally on flipped classrooms, but blend in even station rotation models.
Yeah.
And station rotation model, what you could do is you could differentiate the tasks that you have allotted. And over here, while differentiating, multiple intelligences are very, very important. In the classroom observations that I've been having, I noticed that many of the children who used to be shy and non-communicative are opening up and are speaking much better. Maybe they find that this is a very non-threatening environment or whatever it may be. But you will always find everywhere that there is a solitary learner. This learner is very good at reflections. So the solitary tasks can be allotted to this learner. You might have the interpersonal learners. They are the ones who always raise their hands, ma'am me, I wish to speak. So you could have a collaborative team and divide your class very intelligently. If I may say so, transaction time seems to have reduced now because the learning that is taking place is so much more involved. So when you find that the child is so interested in what they are doing, they're not going to hold back. So if you've got multiple intelligences into your way, so you would know the visual learner, you would know the child who responds to a visual input, someone who responds to a verbal input, another one who wants to actually experience something and do with the hands. That child may be a good communicator too and might do the actual writing. So there's researching and there's so many things to be done over there.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, any next question?
Mr. Pradhan, you can unmute yourself and please ask the question. HM Pradhan. We can also, I think there is, in case you are unable to meet, you can possibly use people who do not know how to do the show of hand. I will request if you can put say even a reaction sort of a symbol up. I'll be happy to take up your question. Okay, Mr. Pradhan, you have raised your hand, but if there is anyone who has a question, or I would say if this is all good with respect to your understanding, then we are already at 6:13, I would say. We are 2 minutes away from our official time closure. So anyone else with a question, ladies and gentlemen? I think Rajni is done. Mr. Pradhan, yes, go ahead, please. Yeah,
yes, sir. How to motivate all students to participate in this program? To all the students, the last benchers or the last floor learner can be very much interested of our class.
एक बार फिर से repeat करिए अपने question को.
How do you motivate even the last learner?
Yeah.
How do last learner?
Can I just answer that?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Please.
Mr. Pradhan, the most important thing is that you should be completely enthusiastic about what you're doing yourself. Because the minute you show that enthusiasm, it has a chain reaction. If you are excited, the children will be excited and motivated. But how should I put it? I think a lot depends on how we as teachers take it forward. If you show, if you say, look, there is so much that can be done. Let's see who's going to help me do what. I think the children will be motivated to learn. That's how I would take it. I've experienced many such cases where children don't want to do it. They just don't want to do it. So taking them one-on-one separately, saying what is it that is bothering you? Maybe they don't understand. Maybe उनको समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा है कि करना क्या है. तो अगर आप उनके साथ अलग से बातें करेंगे, तो शायद उनको समझ में आएगा. लेकिन वो आप अपनी एनर्जी उसको बरकरार रखिएगा, उसको कम मत होने दीजिए. Don't get disheartened that somebody is not listening to me. They will all come on page if you just keep prodding and pushing them and say it's okay.
Yeah. I'll just add one sentence to what Madam said. Sir, the interest of the subject normally depends on the teacher's presentation. So if the teacher is compatible with the student, I'll tell you, your work is half done. You just have to ensure that you're delivering your content properly. That's it. So every child should be motivated through that. That's important.
I'd like to add something here.
Yeah.
We concentrate a lot on how of learning. This is the theorem. This is how it has to be done. We don't concentrate enough on why. If we were to tell the child why it is important or what gain or what takeaway will be there, I think that is something that brings them on board. Many times my students say, why do you use so many animal similes? But it's so popularly said that you can take a horse to drinking water, but you can't make it.
Yes.
The horse is thirsty. And in order to make the horse thirsty, if you're going to make it a boring lesson, to wo sochega chalo so jaye. But if you tell them that this is how it's going to help you, and this is how it will take you to the next step, and this is your gain and your takeaway, I think the battle is won.
True.
That's great. If we can say one word, empower every child. They will engage. Just empower them. Thank you. The next one.
Trilokji.
Pawanji, I think you want to ask some question?
I think there is a...
Yeah.
Can I come in?
Yes, Trilokji.
Please.
Actually, I don't have to ask any question, but I'm saying that the session had been so enlightening. All the speakers were one better than the other. Only thing is that when we want to ensure that every child is involved, we have to encourage them and ignite them to ask more and more questions. When we ask them to give the answers, it can be a rote learning all over again. But if we encourage them to ask more questions, they will definitely do a lot of research to create the questions. Because otherwise they will not have the questions to ask if they're not researching, they're not learning, they're not doing anything on their own. So that's why we need to have a student-led inquiry-based learning, which has to be at the center stage these days, now with the NEP coming into place. And I must say, all of you are wonderful. You've really given us a lot today. Thank you so much, Gaurav ji, for bringing such wonderful, wonderful speakers every time you get a session for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. We will take up one final question, which is Pia Sharma, and then we will close the session, guys. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thanks a lot. Wonderful session. I just had a reflection, it goes back to my time when we had quality circles. I don't know how many of us have been a part of quality circles. And okay. So I think we were practicing this flipped classrooms way back when we were doing our quality circles as well, where students have been, picking up issues like peer pressure, heavy school bags, analyzing how what is the solution to it, what is the problem and what is the solution to it, and presented in a dramatical manner, giving presentations through, your PowerPoint presentations through a skit. So I think flipped classrooms has been happening for a long time and has been a very effective tool as well. So I think all who have been a part of quality circles would agree with me there.
Fantastic. Okay. Sharma ji, over to you. And if my all 4 or 5 speakers, if you have a final word, we can have your final word and then we'll call it a day.
I think done for the day.
Well, you give us a time, we can speak for us together.
Okay.
But we'll have to stick to time.
So
I'm sure this has been a fantastic, absolute pleasure for me to be the moderator with such an intellectual people, and it has been absolutely learning even for me. And I'm sure the way you have handled the questions and the way the topic delivery has happened, it has been fantastic. And I'm really thankful to Gaurav for giving me the opportunity to be the moderator. And I'm sure that lot of interaction, and we look forward to learning more and more, because as a principal, we are all CLO, Chief Learning Officers. So let us keep on learning our presence.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mathur.
Thank you to all the four speakers, Chitrakala ji, Punam ji, Meera ji, and Ms. Anubha. Thank you very much for your time. And lastly, Dr. Rajesh ji, thank you for your valuable moderation. And everyone, in fact, we had a limitation of 300 members only. Otherwise, we had around 350 participation for today. So very well taken session, I would say, by all of you. I personally fall back to, we are recording this, so we'll put this on the YouTube as well, as to people who have missed out can watch this all over again. Thank you, all of you who could stay back. Hope to see you very soon, and stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Good night.